Welcome to Retiring Well, where it's our job to help you enjoy financial security in any economy. Well, we've got a great show lined up for you this week. We're talking about retirement plans, specifically the distribution rules. When are you forced to pull money out? What kinds of penalties do you pay if you don't pull that money out? This is really important stuff. But like we do every week, before we jump in, I first want to introduce you to your retirement planning specialist.
Hi, I'm Rob Russell.
And I'm Curve Miller.
And we're from Russell & Company,
Southwest Ohio's total wealth management firm,
helping you rescue your retirement from bad advice.
Retiring well, providing financial security in any economy. Today is the day you can take control of your financial future and eliminate worry about your money forever. Retiring well, featuring retirement planning specialists Robert Russell and Curve Miller of Russell & Company in Dayton, Ohio.
IRA distribution rules, or retirement plan distribution rules, you could call them. Why are they so important? Well, there are two times in your life where you may be required to pull money out of your retirement plans. And those two periods of time are either one, because you've reached the age of 70 and a half or older. If you are older than 70 and a half, you have a retirement plan. Unless you're still working, you've got to pull money out every single year. We're going to talk about how that works. And then number two, what if you inherit an IRA? Let's imagine that one of your parents pass away and you are the beneficiary. You receive an IRA. Well, guess what? You're going to be forced to start making distributions, and you want to make sure you know what the rules are there. Now, why is that so important? Why is it so important you know what these distribution rules are? It's simple. If you violate these distribution rules, the tax penalty is severe. It's extreme. It is a 50% tax penalty. Not 15, 50, 5-0. So 50% tax penalty, plus you still pay income taxes on the distribution. So pretty nasty stuff there. Make sure you follow the rules. So let's go ahead and hit the over age 70 and a half rules first, and we'll go ahead and jump into these. Three areas we get questions on there all the time. When do you first have to take these required minimum distributions? That's what they're called, required minimum distributions. Well, you have to take them by December 31st of the year in which you turn 70 and a half. Now, there's a little known rule that you can delay the first one till April 1st of the following year. Don't do that. Don't get caught in that. You're just asking for trouble. Just get the money out. You do not have to take it out at any part of the year. You don't have to do it monthly or quarterly. You can do whatever you want. Just get that money out by December 31st of the year in which you turn 70 and a half. The next question is, well, how much do I have to take out? Well, when you first start your distributions, you only have to take out about 3.6%. By the time you're 72, it's 4%. So the older you get, the bigger the percentages get. By the time you're 78, it's 5% and up and up and up, and it doesn't hit 10% until you are 90. So each year, you pull out a percentage. The table tells you how much. It goes up over time. And finally, you can aggregate like accounts. And I don't want to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about that during Chalk Talk later in the show. Make sure you keep your eyes peeled. Now, what if you inherit an IRA? What are some of the things that you have to watch out for there? Number one, do nothing. Don't try to roll over an inherited IRA. You can't do it. You can only transfer. You got to be super careful how you handle these accounts. But again, the first distribution has to happen by December 31st in the year following the year of death. If the IRA owner or the 401k owner dies in 2013, you've got until December 31st of 2014 to make your first distribution. You can aggregate like you do with RMDs. Again, we'll talk about that later in the show. The thing to watch out for, though, is the IRS and the government's talking about limiting your distributions to 5 years. They want all the money out in 5 years. Now, they haven't made that one law yet, but they really want to. And speaking of that 5-year proposal, I want to turn it over to our retirement planning specialist. I want to get their opinion on the odds of this happening, and hey guys, what are you telling your clients? And what should they do about this potential proposal?
And now, featuring Southwest Ohio's retirement planning specialists, Rob Russell and Kervin Miller.
So, Mike, you're right. If you inherit an IRA from somebody you're not married to, you only have a handful of options, and under this new government proposal, they're going to force you to take it out over a 5-year period. But listen, I wouldn't lose sleep over this because, again, it's just a proposal. But if you inherit an IRA under current law from somebody you're not married to, you have 3 choices. 1, you can take it as a lump sum, pay taxes on the entire thing. You could take it out over 5 years, or you could take it out over your lifetime, which is known as a stretch IRA, stretching the tax bill over the rest of your life. And from a tax perspective, that may make the most sense in this environment, but what do you think, Curve?
Well, you're right. The stretch is the best option under current law. And right now, that is current law. That is the default. You can take it over your life expectancy. Now, there's a big undercurrent here that we need to talk about, is the fact that we're $17 trillion in the hole in this nation. And the trend is going to be higher taxes in the future. So perhaps you might be getting a discount by paying all the taxes now versus waiting in a rising tax environment and losing potentially more over time than you would have by just paying them the discounted tax rate now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really depends on your situation, how much income you have, how big is the IRA, and the only way to really tell what option to choose is to meet with a true retirement planning specialist, somebody that's going to look at your tax return and see how this IRA would affect your tax situation in this year, and really what's the best strategy to minimize taxes for you and even your family. It's a very, very confusing world out there when we're talking about IRAs, and you need to work with the best. And Curve and I and even Mike are part of Ed Slott's Master Elite IRA Advisor Group, and Ed Slott is considered the nation's leading expert when it comes to IRAs. And these are the guys and gals you should be meeting with when it comes to making very, very important and difficult decisions with your IRAs.
That's great advice, Rob. And that's the thing. When you dedicate your life to understanding what the tax code says, you got a resource that's going to give you an advantage. So that's awesome. Mike, back to you.
All right, you've gotten some great information about the odds of this proposal happening and maybe some ideas as to what you can do about it, what other people just like you are doing about it. Now, I know that your retirement planning specialists, I know that they are willing to visit with you and people just like you in the community, but I'm sure you're probably wondering, if you were to call the number on the screen, if you were to take advantage of that meeting, I know it's free, I know there's no obligation, but what can you expect to happen? What kinds of expectations are there in that meeting? So what I want to do again, let's go ahead and get it from the source. Let's turn it back over to your retirement planning specialists. Let's hear from them what you can expect.
When you sit down with an advisor from Russell & Company, our goal is to help you uncover some money pitfalls, money that could be falling through the cracks, maybe some problems you weren't aware of in your current plan that may be holding you back from financial security. A lot of the common problems we see are things like estate crack problems, where your assets are not titled in a way to keep them in the family, and the government's going to be there to grab a big chunk of those. And also massive risk. So many people don't realize how much risk they're actually taking in their portfolios until we properly stress test them, and that's a critical piece.
And another piece is income planning. People want real income plans, not maybe income plans. So that's another big part of what we do, is taking what you sacrificed your whole life and then giving you the opportunity to create a legacy for you and your family. So stay tuned for more great information from Retiring Well.
That doesn't sound so tough, does it? Pretty pain-free. Why not call the number on the screen? Get your questions answered. You want to make sure that you're making informed decisions. Now don't go anywhere, because coming up is our question of the week.
You're on the back nine heading for the clubhouse. Your dreams of spending time with family and enjoying retirement are just within reach. What happens if you end up in the rough? In these uncertain times, it's crucial to be prepared with sound advice. Russell & Company is one of the area's premier retirement planning specialists. For a complimentary consultation, call 1-800-392-4378. Russell & Company, helping you create a winning strategy.
Hi, this is Curve Miller, co-host of Retiring Well, seen here on Sundays right after Fox News on Fox 45, as well as heard on Retirement Rescue Radio on Saturdays at 1 o'clock on WHIO. Now, we've received such positive feedback about our live events, I've decided to add a couple special dates just for you. You do not want to miss this live event where you'll uncover what millions of Americans are doing right now to protect and preserve their hard-earned assets. Other topics I plan to discuss, first of all, is how you can tell if hidden fees are eating up a big chunk of your money, how you can safeguard your assets from unnecessary taxation and inflation, how you can tell if your current advisor is giving you expert advice in your retirement, and why stress testing your portfolio may be the most important financial decision of your lifetime. You do not want to miss this live event. I look forward to seeing you. Give the number on the bottom of the screen a call, and I'll see you there.
Welcome back. It's time for our question of the week.
Today's question of the week is from Tom from Hoover, Alabama. He asks, I am turning 62 soon and will be eligible to take Social Security. Is it better to take it right away or wait until I reach full retirement age?
Hey Tom, that is a great question. One that we actually get all the time. You know, the biggest thing is you paid in Social Security for how many years? Every year you've been working, you've been paying in Social Security, and most people want to get some of that back. But there's a couple things you want to consider. Whether you take it early or wait, you have to consider a couple things. The first is what your health is like. You know, if you have a good line of genes and you're going to be living into your hundreds, you know, you might want to wait. You might want to consider waiting on it. But if you obviously have some health issues, or you may want to consider taking it sooner. The other big concern is whether or not you're still working or not. Because currently, if you take Social Security before your full retirement age, which it could be 65 or 66, there's an earnings limit on what you can earn if you're still working before the government starts taking some of your Social Security back. So it's roughly around $14,000 a year in income. So those are the two biggest concerns, is what your health is like and whether or not you're still working.
Yeah, without a doubt, Curve. That's really good advice for Tom and the rest of our viewers. Also, don't forget that Social Security is not the only income plan that you have, or at least should have. You should always have a backup income plan, and that really traditionally comes from a combination if you have a pension and or your investment portfolio. Now, a lot of advisors will tell you that you can take out 3 or 4 or 5% a year and you shouldn't run out of money, and that is a danger sign. Mike always talks about these IRA blow-ups. Well, that's an income blow-up. Now listen, Curve and I and the rest of our advisors at Russell & Company, we're not doctors. We can't save lives, but we can save your lifestyle. And the most important part of that is building an income plan you can't outlive.
Yeah, and Rob, great point there. And one thing I want you to keep in mind too, Tom, is the fact that Social Security is currently underfunded, meaning that it's broke. There's no money there. So you have to consider that as part of your planning as well. Do you want to wait on something that may not be there when you finally elect it? So that's part of your decision too. But Social Security was never meant to be a sole source of income. So keep that in mind. Make sure you work with a specialist who can help you craft a personal income plan, and make sure you understand what your options are. So thanks for the question, Tom.
Do you want your question answered on Retiring Well? Send us an email to question@retiringwell.tv.
Hi, this week in Chalk Talk, we want to cover what I referenced earlier in the show, something called aggregation rules. Now, this applies to required distributions of all types with retirement plans, whether you're taking distributions because you're over the age of 70 and a half, or because you're taking distributions as an inherited account. You might have multiple inherited accounts. You might have an inherited 401k or an inherited IRA. You want to make sure that you're following the rules, because remember, the penalties are 50% and you don't want to pay that kind of penalty. So what are the aggregation rules? What do they mean? Here you go. Let's start with the over 70 and a half crowd. Let's pretend that you have multiple types of retirement plans. So maybe for whatever reason you have a 401k over here from a company you used to work with. Over here we've got a 403b, and then over here you've got an IRA. And you add up all these accounts to figure out how much you have to withdraw for the year. Let's pretend that you have to withdraw $10,000. That's your total required distribution. Well, here's the question. Do you have to pull, the pro rata amount out of each of these accounts? Or can you just pull it all out of one? Well, the answer is this. When it comes to aggregation rules, here's what it says. It says what you have to do is you have to treat each type of plan as its own channel, if you will. So here we have a 401k. That's going to be its own channel. The same with the 403b and your IRA. So if you have more than one 401k, well, you can kind of pick and choose how you want to pull money out of that 401k, or if you have two 401ks, you could pull some out of one and some out of the other, all out of one or all out of the other, whatever you want to do. But you have to withdraw what's appropriate for that channel, that 401k. If you have multiple 403bs, you can aggregate them. You can pull however you want to pull out of, whatever ones you want to pull out of, as long as you're pulling the right amount out of that channel. Finally, if you have multiple IRAs, same thing. You can pick and choose where to pull your distribution from, as long as you are pulling the right amount for that channel. But here's what you cannot do. If you've got to pull $10,000 out total and you've got money in all three of those channels, you can't just take it out of one. You've got to make sure you're pulling the right amount out of each channel. Super important. Don't mess that up. So there you go. Those are the aggregation rules. That's Chalk Talk.
Hi, this is Curve Miller, co-host of Retiring Well, seen here on Sundays right after Fox News on Fox 45, as well as heard on Retirement Rescue Radio on Saturdays at 1 o'clock on WHIO. Now, we've received such positive feedback about our live events, I've decided to add a couple special dates just for you. You do not want to miss this live event where you'll uncover what millions of Americans are doing right now to protect and preserve their hard-earned assets. Other topics I plan to discuss, first of all, is how you can tell if hidden fees are eating up a big chunk of your money, how you can safeguard your assets from unnecessary taxation and inflation, how you can tell if your current advisor is giving you expert advice in your retirement, and why stress testing your portfolio may be the most important financial decision of your lifetime. You do not want to miss this live event. I look forward to seeing you. Give the number on the bottom of the screen a call, and I'll see you there.
Hi, my name's Michael Reese. I'm a certified financial planner who specializes in retirement planning. And for the last 18 years, I've been helping my clients enjoy financial security during their retirement years. And one of the hottest financial tools out there right now for retirement planning are annuities, but they're also the most misunderstood. And it's really no surprise why things are so confusing, because both the insurance companies and the financial media do such a poor job explaining what annuities are and when they should best be used. That's why I've created a series of videos absolutely free that you can watch in the comfort of your own home to teach you what annuities are and how they work.
Visit www.makingannuitiessimple.com today for a free video series with TV host and retirement planning strategist Michael Reese.
Welcome back to the program. It's time for our story of the week. And this story is actually inspired by something that is commonly overlooked. And it really deals with the taxation of an IRA for a non-spouse beneficiary. So if you're a child or a brother or a sister, somebody who's not a spouse, and you inherit an IRA, I wanted to share this story. The story involves a client of mine who, she's younger, but she went from 0 to 7 figures overnight. And it's a very tragic, because ultimately for her to do that, she lost somebody very important in her life. Now, the problem with this is the money that she inherited had never been taxed. Now all of a sudden the IRS wants her to do something. And whatever she chooses is going to trigger taxes. So the biggest problem is, and she came to me for advice, she is a client of mine, and the biggest task she's faced with is how does she take distributions to stay compliant with the IRS rules. So currently what happens is she could take a 5-year payout of this money, which means she could spread that tax bill over a 5-year period. She could take it lump sum, which means take it all in 1 year and have one big, huge tax return and hopefully be done with it. Or she could take a stretch IRA, which means she could spread that tax bite over her life expectancy, which for her, working, being married, dual incomes, may make the most sense. But either way, she has to do something, and she's on a timetable on when she has to do it.
Well, she went from 0 to 7 figures overnight. I can imagine, losing somebody that you love, and then on top of that, having the IRS hold the proverbial gun to your head, telling you have to make a choice. And by the way, whatever choice you make, you're going to have to pay us in taxes. It reminds me of a story years back of a gentleman named John Barron, and John inherited his father's 401k, and the laws were a tad bit different back then, but he inherited his father's 401k plan worth $500,000, and his father, he wasn't a doctor or an attorney or anything to save up $500,000. He was a meter reader for 30-some years at an electric company in California, and John had no idea his father even saved up that much money. And then he found out he was the primary beneficiary. Wow. And then later on, what was the tax bill on the $500,000? It was $230,000 in taxes to the federal government and, of course, the state of California. It's probably not what his father wanted to happen with that money. Probably not what you want to happen with probably your largest asset, your IRA. See, for years, for decades really, you've put money into your retirement accounts, never paid a lick of tax on it. And as Curve mentioned, when that money comes out, it's taxable. It's taxed at ordinary income rates, which are some of the worst and nastiest tax rates in the Internal Revenue Code.
Yeah, and Rob, the biggest concern I have in this area is the fact that this is a very difficult time. I mean, nobody wants to say, okay, I've got this IRA money. Do I put it in my IRA? What kind of IRA do I open? And also, advisors don't specialize in this area. Mm-hmm. So you think about all the emotion going on in this situation, where you lose somebody that you love so much, and you're forced to make the right decision. And by the way, if you make the wrong decision, you're going to have a huge tax bill, and the government gets that shot in the arm that they want so much. So whatever you do not work. Make sure you work with a specialist. Don't go this alone. Make sure you work with a specialist. You can give the number at the bottom of the screen a call. A wealth advisor at Russell & Company would be happy to help you if you find yourself in the same situation.
I love those stories of the week, don't you? And again, they really highlight how if you're not talking to a retirement planning specialist, you can kind of get into trouble if you're not sure about what you're doing. Why not take the opportunity now, pick up the phone, call the number on the screen, ask your questions to your retirement planning specialist so that you can make smart, educated decisions. All right, time to turn the page here a little bit, because this week I want to share an IRA blow up with you. This week's IRA blow up comes straight from our office in Traverse City, Michigan. We have a client, let's call her Jane to protect her innocence. Jane was divorced from her husband for many years, probably 20 years. Between them, they had 2 children. And here's the problem. Her ex-husband had just passed away. And he had about few $100,000 in his 401k. Now, he had told everybody, and I mean everybody, that his son and his daughter, from their marriage, were the beneficiaries of that 401k. My client Jane, she was to get none of that money. But guess what, let's call him Joe, did? Joe never changed the beneficiary agreement on his 401k. In other words, way back when he first opened up this 401k, what did he do? He put down his wife's name as the beneficiary, Jane. Well, when they got divorced, he never went into that company and took Jane's name off of it. He just let it be. Now, he changed the beneficiary arrangements in his will, and he changed the beneficiary arrangements in his trust. Not only did he do that, but in his trust, it actually says that his 401k goes to his 2 children and not to Jane. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter because a 401k, just like a 403b, just like an IRA, just like your life insurance, it doesn't pass on to the next person through a will or a trust. Documents like that, or accounts like that rather, transfer based upon beneficiary arrangements. What I want you to realize is beneficiary arrangements trump any other documents, with some exceptions, of course. In this case, we had a situation, they were divorced, clearly Jane wasn't supposed to get the money, but because he didn't fix it, he didn't change the beneficiaries, she got it anyway. Then, of course, her daughter and her son are crying rotten eggs. They want the money. Now the mom's trying to figure, well, how do I get the money to them without paying a whole amount, just a huge amount of tax? It has become a total mess, to the point where the kids aren't even wanting to talk to her anymore. You can avoid this yourself. Simply have your beneficiary arrangements checked. I recommend you do so with a retirement planning specialist so that it's done properly. That's our show. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have a great week.